I'd like to explore an idea with you, the idea of minimum viable story. Now, when we're writing, we often overcomplicate stories and run the risk of never finishing them. This is where minimum viable story comes to the rescue. So what is minimum viable story? It's something I've stolen from the world of business. In business, one of the things we look for when creating a new product is what is the least we can produce to have a viable product. And it's a watchword for getting to the end of a product and getting it out the door so that customers are buying it. What if we took the same idea and applied it to storytelling? What is the minimum viable story to tell the tale that you want to get out there? Why not simplify? Ask yourself, what is the core story here? So what minimum viable story will then do for you is it will release your story to beta readers in the shortest possible time. It will reduce the time investment before you have something to share. It will test the demand for your story or setting, perhaps before planning a longer or more complicated series. If a story is going to fail, let it fail quickly. You can gain out valuable insights into what does and does not work. You get feedback from readers and it can play into a larger work. And at the same time, you get to gather and enhance your reader base, because you can't have readers until you have released a story. That's not to say you should release a crudely written story. It should be as polished as humanly possible. Finish the story, finish it properly, but it should be the least story needed to tell the tale. A minimum viable story is a tool for staying focused on the core of what matters to your narrative. There once was a person who lived in a setting and had a problem. They did some things, had some setbacks, until they finally solved the problem, the end. Everything that goes beyond that is decoration and flavour. If your flavour gets in the way of telling the story, you have suffered from story scope creep. That's bad. Cut it back, find the minimum viable story, the core tale. Avoid story scope creep. This happens a lot in development, where we start with a project idea and the scope of the project gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it never gets finished. It can happen with stories too. Scope creep is a mistake we writers can make when we expand the scope of the story over and over, much like programmers. Scope creep causes the whole thing to become a giant complicated thing that is no fun to write and less fun to read. We can't all be that writer that invents a realm like Middle-earth. Sometimes we just need to tell a story. Minimum viable story can mean novel series. It doesn't mean short story. Just because you're shooting for the minimum viable story doesn't mean that that story must be a short one. Perhaps your minimum viable story is a series of novels. And that's okay. If your story is big, tell a big story. If it's little, tell a little story. When it comes to writing short stories, I try to pull back to as small as focus as possible. If that can't be done, then you either have a novella or something bigger. I have a short story that I've tried to write 3 times, and it just doesn't work in a short. One day I might rewrite it as a novel or a novella. So, that is minimum viable story, in a nutshell. The least amount of story to tell the tale and get it in front of readers. And I'd love to hear what you think about using a minimum viable story. Is paring back to a minimum viable story the best approach for your storytelling? Can staying strongly focused on your core story make for better storytelling? I think it can. Is this technique or idea right for you? Use the comments, give me your thoughts, and I look forward to hearing from you. I regularly write about creative writing on the Thanet Creative blog, which I'll link to in the description. If you want the latest writing, RPG, and nerdy wordy story stuff, as I share it, please subscribe, ring the bell icon to get updates, and if you're still watching, you're a total legend. Please share this video far and wide. I'll see you in the next video, and stay nerdy.